All right, we're going to get this started. We're going to kick this off. And we have 2 mics and more than 2 people, so we're going to introduce ourselves. How are we going to do this? All right, I'm going to start. I'm Brendan Burns. I'm on the steering committee. That's it, I guess.
We're all on the steering committee.
We're all on the steering committee. Well, what else do you want to know? I spent the weekend taking pictures of stuffed animals. There you go. That's what you need to know.
This is a weird fun fact moment, then?
I don't know. You made me say something.
I'm Sarah Novotny. I went to my first official English tea this weekend. Why not? I'm also on the steering committee, oddly enough.
Okay. I don't have a fun fact. I'm Derek Carr. I'm also on the steering committee. I'm happy to be here because I almost got trapped in a snowpocalypse in Raleigh. But that's my fun fact, I guess.
Hi, I'm Aaron Krickenberger. I am also on the steering committee. My fun fact is by the time I was 15, I had moved around 12 different times. One of those places was Geneva, Switzerland. Donc, je peux parler un petit peu français. L'accent, c'est pas mal. Le vocabulaire me manque un petit peu. But yeah, if you want to try practicing that, come talk to me.
What? No. Ixnay.
Go next. Your turn.
Fun fact.
My name and a fun fact?
Yes.
We presume you're still on the steering committee.
That's awkward.
Now that since he missed his talk walkthrough, he's not.
So my name is Clayton Coleman, and the fun fact is that I don't wear shorts unless it drops below 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
That is, you do wear shorts unless it's.
I don't wear pants. I mean, I wear pants, but not in that kind of way.
Weird, awkward conversation.
TMI.
It got weird, yeah, I know.
Hi. My nickname is Dims. If you want to know my longer name, talk to me.
Speaking into the microphone.
Hi, I'm Tim St. Clair. I'm also on the steering committee. I guess the fun fact is for those who are watching at home, notice that my camera shifted 90 degrees, so now my kids can't just like randomly do stuff in the background.
And I'm Brian Grant. Hi again. A fun fact is I like spicy food. If you want to recommend hot sauce to me, I would appreciate that. Yeah, good hot sauce.
He'll say something like, "That's not really hot. I had that."
Yeah, yeah. It has to be at least
Peppers just aren't that hot. Like, who says that?
500,000 Scovilles or more.
The last time I impressed him with a hot sauce fact, it was that there is research now to do nerve deadening pain control with hot sauce.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Phil Whitrock. I, too, am on the steering committee. And a fun fact about me is that I am terrible at booking travel logistics. I both dread it and am very bad at it. And if you want anyone to elaborate on that, go talk to Paris. She's familiar with all my mistakes I've made. All right, yeah, that's everyone.
We're missing 3.
Oh, yes, we're missing 3. Joe Beta, Michelle Norali.
Speak into the microphone.
So we have 3 other steering committee members that I believe they're at the Cloud Native Computing Foundation board meeting at the moment. They were very deep in a SWOT analysis when I left, so they will join us when they can. That's Joe Beta, Michelle Norali, and Brendan Phillips. So they will join us shortly. Brandon, B-Don, as I'm going to refer to both of them here on out.
Just mumble, and then everyone will assume you said the right thing.
Oh, I'm doing Y. That's right. Why the steering committee exists. I didn't write these slides. It's like PowerPoint karaoke.
You can totally take our
just
jobs
like
very seriously.
we're just gonna ad lib. So no, the steering committee came into existence about 2 years ago, and it came out of a realization that we had reached a scale where assuming that everybody sort of knew each other and had been at the project from the beginning wasn't working, and we needed really to formalize process so that the community could continue to grow. And we came up with a bunch of different sort of guidelines for that, but I think that the biggest guideline that we came up with was to try and delegate as much as possible. And so in some ways, if we are making a decision, then it means that we failed. Because our hope is that we're empowering the community and we're finding the right people. There we go, I guess. We're finding the right people to make decisions for us. And in fact, in some ways, as we've gone down this journey, we've realized that this is actually a practicality because we are all so busy collectively that we actually never get anything done. And so it is only by
We started to delegate well, let's be
Right.
clear.
No, exactly. It's a survival tactic at this point. And that even includes things like the recent elections where basically Paris and George over there did it all. Except for the voting. You all did the voting. They only voted like 10 or 12 each. So, yeah.
More voting, vote often?
Vote often. But at a purely logistic level, we meet every 2 weeks. We have an agenda that's up on the web on a document that we try and keep updated. We have a bosun who tries to keep us on order, and there is actually a bosun today who's supposed to be keeping me on order, although I don't see him having a clock. So, oh no, it's Phil. Oh, sorry, never mind. That's it. If you want to reach us, we're steering at Kubernetes.io. We also. Oh shoot! This is what happens. All right, I think I'm done with the why. Then I'm done with the why. All right.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to do their own version of all the slides. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about things we've done. And so one thing we've done is secured financing for bug bounty program and security audit. We've set up bootstrapped a code of conduct committee, set up governance and structure for SIGs and working group scope and operations, updated our own charter, and solidified values. And this goes back to the why. What we're trying to do is set up a structure so that the project can manage itself, as well as identify areas where there isn't sufficient ownership, and then so set up ownership within the project for that. Tim St. Clair. Congratulations, you win.
I didn't know I was winning today. So how you can reach us? There's a backlog we have that someone managed. I think Jace does a lot of work to actually help. Yeah, to help manage the backlog. We also have a public and private mailing list. If you want to reach us on the public mailing list, I'm guessing this is the public one, is steering at Kubernetes.io. There's also sessions that Paris organizes during the Meet Our Contributors section. So that way you can actually meet some of the folks on the steering committee and ask them questions. And that's it.
I love the 7:30 a.m. ones. They're the best.
Okay, so what are we doing next? We're going to meet on Friday and trying to decide what to do next. So we have a chart. So we'll tell you next week. But we do have a backlog that we have curated, and we have a charter. We have one already almost, and we are going to revise that a little bit. But the most important thing seems to be around security auditing. What do we do as a policy, and is that the first priority that we have? That's, for example, one of the things that we want to talk about. But more importantly, we are not going to do all the work, like people mentioned before. We want to build roles where we can pull in people from the community to do the actual work or delegate it into the different SIGs and the sub-projects of the SIGs and things like that. So we hope to, get more work done together. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to add a little more color to that, if the bosun will allow me. Cool. Okay, 2 minutes. This is impossible. If you remember when the steering committee was first founded, our charter was massive to address things like identify gaps within the project, figure out what it is you do here, figure out who actually owns each and everything, figure out how the project should be organized, figure out the code organization structure, make sure that actually lines up with the people organization structure, define what a working group is, define how that's different from a SIG, define how that's different from a committee, make sure that there is a committee that deals with the code of conduct issues that is not just Sarah. And I think we have more or less addressed a lot of that. Like did you know there are 30 SIGs? There are 30 SIGs, actually 31. There are also 10 working groups. Okay, Oh, there's 32, Sigbeard. Thank you. So between all of those, we kind of have defined mostly what everybody does here. So it seems like our charter is largely redundant at this point because you actually do everything that's in the charter. My favorite thing to find in the charter was apparently the steering committee was supposed to sign off on every single Kubernetes release to bless it. So basically, I think we're going to turn our charter into do nothing because we think, our whole goal is to empower you to do things. We think we have mostly done that. We want to identify the remainder of things that still seem to require us for decisions and find a way to give them off to you. We also found that fully formed proposals given to us were the best way to actually have things get done, and we'd like to formalize that or make more of that happen this time around. And I think that's it.
So, 3 more introductions.
Right. So I'm Brandon Phillips, and a fun fact is that I was trending on Twitter a few months ago. Because I share a name with a baseball player who's quite good.
Sports ball. All right, I'm Joe Bita. Fun fact is I like lasers. So there you go.
And you wear blue shoes.
My shoes are Kubernetes blue. Also, VMware blue? I don't know.
I'm Michelle Nurley, and today I learned that Joe pronounces his last name Beta instead of Beta. And that's my fun fact. And also, I'm really bad at tennis, and I'm really good at packing travel luggage. Those are all mine.
You and Philip should talk about travel. Okay, so I think at this juncture we're moving on to Q&A. Yes, excellent, which means I am going to hand this microphone off to our lovely room coordinator, Lindsay.
Questions? Anyone? Comments? Yes.
Can you talk real quick on how this next year the shrinking thing will work for everybody?
Who's got the microphone? You got the microphone? You want to do the drinking thing?
Explain why there's so many of you.
Right, so when we originally formed the steering committee, before the first election, we formed what we called a bootstrap committee. And the bootstrap committee was comprised of people who had been involved with the project for a long time. And we came together to discuss, well, what are the issues we need to solve? And that's where this charter that Aaron was talking about, that now many of those things have been accomplished, came from. That series of pretty intense discussions. Yeah, 3 multiple all-day meetings, hashing out, things like SWOT analysis of what are we worried about, what do we want to happen, and how do we enable that. So when we were having the election, we also wanted to ensure that there was some continuity of people who had been involved with the project for a long time and whoever might happen to get elected. We wanted to mentor the next generation of leadership and enable more people to step up and help organize the project as a whole. So we had the bootstrap members stay on as what we called continuity members and had a phased process for having them rotate out potentially and having new folks rotate in. So we got a whole new set of people in addition to the continuity members serving on the steering committee after the elections that we've had so far. In the fall, when we have another election, all the continuity members will be up for re-election, and the set of seats available will reduce down from where we're at now is 12 to 7. So anybody who wants to continue on will have to stand for election along with all the other folks that are up for election, and we're trying to establish alternating cadence of seats, so not everybody is up for re-election all the time, so we have ongoing continuity going forward in the future. So, as with all young democracies, we're very concerned, but the past two elections have gone off very, very smoothly. So thanks everybody for taking it seriously. And we hope that what you see coming from the steering committee, and we try to address issues that are causing recurring pain and confusion in the project. And we hope that we're doing that, but we really rely on you to make us aware of those issues. So we can help you sort them out.
Okay, I think I'm going to stand here, and if anybody has questions, maybe you could come to me instead.
I have oh. Okay.
Yeah, okay, but I'll get you first. We can walk in this.
Didn't know if there were stock questions. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for having the Q&A. Yes, I will speak up a bit. Thank you, George. Hi, I'm Zach. So I'm a cluster operator. We're in a industry that has lots of security regulations. So last week scared the bejeebers out of our CIO, who was white-knuckling his desk as we were updating nodes during the day when traffic was important. So I was curious to find out, obviously I imagine I wasn't the only scared one in the room, and you guys are thinking about this. How is what happened and just the general thought on security going to shift now that Kubernetes vulnerabilities have moved from bad to potentially catastrophic for industries or people?
Let me walk through what we currently do, and I'd love to have feedback. So in the steering committee, we've done a couple of things. First is that we have a security audit that we're starting to kick off. There's a team that's going to be working with the vendor to do a third-party security audit. The next piece is bug bounty system, getting a bug bounty in place and doing that. And then the normal process that we have for disclosures over the last year, Jess, CJ, Tim, I'm going to forget somebody, Jordan Liggett. Okay. Yeah, and Jonathan. We have a team that listens on security at Kubernetes.io with a rotation. It's like the world's worst rotation because if you get a ticket, it might, like somebody files a disclosure, you might have to handle that for like 2 months. So being on call is quite a roulette. But we handle those tickets, and there's a documented process of how that actually works and how we get vendors on a pre-disclosure mailing list and how those pre-disclosures translate into setting timelines and et cetera. So we try to follow a pretty responsible and well-documented disclosure process. And in general, just any large software project is going to have vulnerabilities. There's a couple of people working on the project, so it's just really hard to be constantly vigilant on every pull request merge that you're doing the right thing.
And I was going to add, like, part of this too is the steering committee shouldn't be the one dealing with this, and so that delegation down to the security group is one part, and then also making sure that the other SIGs feel like they're participating to make that successful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, all right, stop. I heard the pushback over there. No, I was just going to say, I do think, though, that the fact that we are sort of hiring out the security audit and stuff like that points to, like, we probably need maybe more of a working group there. I mean, there is there's the response part, and then there's the proactive, what do we need to do, fix part. I think we've been doing a good job on the response. I think that we probably need a group of people to be a little more proactive on the finding and fixing.
And this particular one, I think the team did an amazing job. It went off like clockwork, so can we all give them a hand?
We were ready for it. We were ready for handling the situation.
Yeah, we were definitely ready. But I also think that just out of pure running it yourself, no, I mean, like, the easiest fix, or the thing that mitigated this thing the most, was a flag that you could have already had on your cluster, right? And so I think it does speak to the fact that being aware of what's going on is also probably something that an operator, if you're running your own cluster, needs to be thinking about. It's on us too. I mean, the fact that it was default unauthenticated for certain paths is probably a bad thing too. But anyway.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, kind of. Sorry.
Security
It's good.
Yeah.
Lots of awesome words.
Do you have a follow-up question?
I was going to follow along with, I remember having a discussion at KubeCon Copenhagen and kind of getting the answer of, well, this is SIGAUTH's domain, and And so the security is delegated to them. But kind of thinking about that, like most of the CVEs we've seen generally weren't, well, I guess this one was authentication related, but were authentication or authorization or admission control. It was more like a host path mapping vulnerability. It's like, well, that's a node problem. That's not really an authorization issue. So, you know, you started to mention, I'm sorry, I didn't notice who, there was so many people that responded. But like, as far as security is concerned, could there be a more cross-cutting effort that happens as like a general, we want to advance the secure defaults of Kubernetes? I don't know, just a thought.
Yes, okay, somebody.
We've been doing that for quite some time now. So switching off the ports, that are unauthenticated, that kind of stuff. Jordan, where are you? But yeah, we've been doing those kinds of things. Even in Kuberium defaults and things like that, we've been deprecating the ports that are not needed and things like that. So yeah, there is an effort, but as usual, we would like more of you to show up for this kind of work, not just you, Zach, but other people in this room.
I'm so sorry, I'm like eating everyone's stuff. Is this like a working group? Like can be found, like the thing you're talking about, are there?
This one was across SIG cluster lifecycle and
Okay.
SIGAuth, yeah.
So yeah, I think if you are proposing the formation of a working group to go across SIGs, that would be a great thing to submit. So the reason I say it would be a great thing is because it's the type of work that spans multiple SIGs, and it also has a defined end goal, after which point the working group would disband, which is the definition of a working group. Because we defined it that way. I hope, yeah. So I kind of wanted to pole vault that up, or trampoline that up into a question I got on the way in here, where I was in the LTS discussion, and I don't know how many of you are aware of the number of releases of Kubernetes we have cut with all of the tests passing. It's 0. It is a big fat 0. Okay, so the question was, is it the steering committee's responsibility to throw the hammer down? My answer was no. Okay, next question. Is it SIG testing's responsibility? My answer was also no. I think it's everybody's responsibility in this room. But okay, if it's everybody's problem, then it's nobody's problem. I think it really comes down to SIG release and the release team. But I do think it requires coordinated effort and involvement from everybody in this room. We can't fix your tests for you. Y'all are the ones who wrote the tests. We can definitely make it easier to identify which tests are breaking and find better ways to identify like why they're breaking. But ultimately, we need the community to help us with this problem. And I think one of those tests could be security-related tests or penetration-related tests. I really think that it's time for us to start documenting what it means for a release to go out the door and start using more checklists instead of like humans that kind of interpret things and mostly get it all right. Like what the release team has shown to me over the past couple of years is that it's literally impossible for a person to both have the technical depth to dive into each and every feature that's landing in Kubernetes and also have the organizational skills to coordinate like 20 different people. It's impossible. We really need you to help out with the technical due diligence. But I've heard that like doctors in hospitals kind of get around this by having nurses that use checklists to make sure that steps are not missed. Even if they're really obvious steps that we all kind of know, sometimes we're a little overloaded and it's much easier to use checklists. So I feel like I as a SIG release person, release lead, I have some opinions about the checklist, but I feel like SIG architecture kind of owns the definition of what a stable feature is, what a GA feature is, what a beta feature is. I think there should be some level of testing around that. And I think there should be some due diligence put into the upgrade and downgrade paths for those features. I think that's SIG cluster lifecycles expertise. I think there's some checklist around the security features of that, and maybe that's SIGAuth, or maybe that's a working group. But I'm trying to lay out the plan for how like it is kind of everybody does have a piece in this puzzle, but the steering committee is not actually owning this or the decision makers for this. And I think that's a good example of the way this community is supposed to work, where all of the decision making and empowering lies with everybody in this room.
The book that he just referenced, though, is the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, who talks about surgeons and checklists and how they actually do this.
I'd like a follow-up, please. So I think I'm trying to figure out how to ask this as the right sort of question with the right tone. But I would, and Aaron and I did have a chat before this. Although I appreciate, this feels like a bit of a tragedy of the commons setup. So given that the release, the team that gets to make the choice on whether a team gets released, whether they get to say, no, this release does not meet our standards, therefore it's not going to ship even if it slips. Yep. Is it the steering committee's responsibility to ensure that if that's the job, that job is being done? In other words, actually making the call about a release, I think you've been very clear on. Is it the steering committee's, part of the steering committee charter that if the release team has set up a certain set of criteria under which they're going to evaluate whether a release passes or not, if they're not doing that, does the steering committee step in or not?
So I think I'll try to take a stab at answering that. I do not actually think that it's the steering committee's job to evaluate whether or not SIGs are doing a good job. I think we can adjudicate it, but I'm not sure that we should be in the process of sort of steady state evaluating it, right? So the hope is that some other SIG or some other community member raises up a question and says they're not doing a good job. We actually had a very interesting discussion on precisely this topic like a week ago. And we didn't come to a resolution, unfortunately, but we'll get there. But so that's, like, I think if the load of doing steady state eval of every single SIG is not sustainable on the part of the steering committee. There's 33 of them, as Aaron, although we all agree that Aaron's beard is above reproach. So that's I don't think we can do that. So we really intend it to be a point of adjudication, so someone else complains. Yeah.
Yeah, follow up. So I think doing a good job was a very poor way for me to ask the question. What I was really trying to ask was, are the SIGs doing what they're saying they're doing? I wasn't attempting to even discuss the qualification as to whether they've set up the job right, what should be the response if that's...
That's a really hard question to answer. Thanks. The problem with a lot of SIGs is they're volunteer armies, right? And they come and go. People come into SIGs, they go out of SIGs, and sometimes leadership even rotates too as well. So they're given a certain sense of responsibilities, but that doesn't mean that they adhere to them at all times, right? I think what we're looking for from the steering committee and talking about this is to reiterate the notion that you are the ones who really have the power, right? And we're looking for you to help us to make the community better, right? The only thing that the steering committee really does is delegate authority to different areas of the project, and as Brendan mentioned, to adjudicate where we need to, right? But we don't actually take on the responsibility of making sure that SIGs are doing what they say they're doing. There's sort of this self-policing that needs to go on.
I wanted to add one point. I think the failure mode that we were very concerned with originally was a group of senior engineers who are very, very motivated to make this the best project possible, dictating from on high what the project is. And so that failure mode is one that concerns us. And so a lot of the delegation aspect is we want those people, if it's those people who are opinionated, they should be in a SIG, they should be delegated that responsibility, and the SIG has to reach that agreement. We do need some sense of accountability, but if this group is doing it, then we are also politicizing that aspect. And so there's, this has been discussed in some detail, but we are as concerned about this group making decisions for the community as we are about ensuring the community functions.
We always thought that forking was the pressure on the opposite side.
Yeah, I just also say I think it is the steering committee's job to help make sure the project functions as a whole. So if the organization of the project isn't working in some fashion, to help address that. We are trying to do that with the clarification of the responsibilities of SIGs, with creation of all the SIG charters and from the SIG charter template, and clarification of what working groups are for, and the formation of committees like the security team or the code of conduct committee. So we're trying to address the meta-level projects for how do we organize this project in a way that everybody can help the project have the impact that we want it to have, and enable the people contributing to the project to be successful.
Go for it, please.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think maybe one question to ask is like, is the SIG empowered to do this, or is there a group of individuals empowered to do this? And then what do they need in order to be able to do it? Like, it would make more sense for one of us to join the SIG probably and do it in the context as a member or leader within that SIG that's empowered to do it, than the steering committee to like take it on and then be responsible for it.
Specifically with the release team, one other thing that I worry about is the amount of churn. Every cycle we have brand new, fresh, but we do have roles where people are shadowing others before, so that kind of helps. But then we need people who are there across multiple releases and who help with doing the patch management work and things like that. So we do need help there. So a big shout out to the release team, because we just released 1.13 last week. If you're on the release team, please stand up or show your hand. Thank you. So thanks a lot.
We're all just going to keep like being super philosophical if you don't have any questions. But I have one, I feel like that ties into another theme is, yes, we're terrible at project management. Like software developers are not really great at that. I feel like we all can probably point to areas where the organization of this project is a mess and really noisy. There are also a lot of people who really want to get into Kubernetes but feel like it's super deep and they have to like spin up for 3 months before they can be helpful in any way, shape, or form. I want to tell you about Matt Farina. Matt Farina showed up to SIG Architecture and basically did about, stand up Matt. Matt showed up to SIG Architecture and did more or less an hour or two's worth of work, maybe per week, maybe not even per week, to sort of help actually organize what the SIG's workload was and what it is we actually work on and why we're working on those things and how best for us to talk to each other. You may have seen his update at the Kubernetes community meeting explaining SIG architecture. This was all non-technical stuff. We really just needed somebody to come in and treat the children like, could we please talk to each other and stuff. I'm pretty sure there are lots of you out there who could do this for us. Hell, the steering committee even needs it. Like, we got Jace to help create a board for us because we're terrible at putting together a backlog. Like, I feel like almost every SIG could benefit from a lot more just like project management type of stuff, or getting people to talk to each other, or organizing stuff. Like, you cannot imagine how much benefit we would all gain from that as a community. So please come on up. It would be great.
You missed the punchline. So we made him the co-chair of the SIG architecture. Oh, right.
There's a whole lot of show up and do things, and then you get put in charge. So that's a double-edged sword. I keep getting high signs that we're running out of time. And
4 minutes.
4 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. But there are a couple of points that we need to make. One of which is, this is your community. You are empowered to talk to other people and say, hey, can I help you? Hey, this isn't going as well as it could. Hey, please put more effort in this way, or tell me how we can find other people to help you. So this is very much about distributing decision-making authority, distributing workloads, and making sure that we build a distributed compute system, because Conway's law says we will ship the organization we have. So if there are 13 of us at the top making decisions, we're going to make a really weird monolith. As you've seen by this group, sort of our stage act up here. So mutter, mutter, mutter. Okay, anyway, so that's one point. Second point that I need to make is, right, stage act. Second point I need to make is, in fact, that you are the people who choose this group, this leadership, and how this project gets managed, gets led. So stand up, do some work, make sure you vote in the election this fall. This fall? This fall.
Every year.
Next, okay, good. I'm like, wait a minute, but yeah.
Participation was like 50%.
Yeah, 50% of you, well, compared to US politics, may be higher than average, but for this group, given that you are choosing the leadership for this project, and this, we can make decisions that affect you, we don't want to, and we don't want to be forced to. We want you all to be self-guiding and leading and then escalate things to us as you need. But you are the group that pick this leadership group. And particularly since we will be dropping down to 7 people this next fall, we want to make sure that, good people who are invested and interested and have shown themselves to be active in the project want to continue in this space. Because I do think several of the continuity members are going to quietly but quietly not be reelected to steering committee. One of the other reasons that we didn't mention about the steering committee being 13 members for the first year and now 12 since Tim Hawken has decided he has too many things to do, is that we knew this was going to be a big glut of work as we set up this governance. So I wanted to make sure that we addressed that part, and we've gotten a lot of it done, and the workload should be different and evolving as the next committee comes on. So vote, make sure people the right people are participating, and people that you trust and want to enable in this power, or in this lack of power. Yeah. Anyway, this delegation authority. How about that?
Tim actually didn't step down.
Tim didn't step down? No, he didn't. He didn't step down because there was too much work, but he did have enough other things.
It's worth pointing out that explicitly in the bylaws, there's a clause about percentage representation from any one company. And so that's actually why someone from Google had to step down, and Tim made the gracious decision to do so.
Because he's leading in so many other ways.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But I wanted everybody to understand, I think it's an important aspect of steering to understand that we actually also were seeking to ensure that there's a diversity of perspectives in the committee, so.
All right, and with that, I believe we are out of time, and Paris is going to come up here. I did want to say one fantastic thing. All the people that participated to make this day possible should get a huge round of applause. Paris and George and Nancy and all the room moderators and all the new contributor, say that again? Bob. Say Bob again. Hey, Bob.
Bob, hold on, really quick. Bob worked this crazy chaos of a registration booth. There are so many people that want to talk to you all. I just need to reiterate that. When we put it on the co-located page when KubeCon was first announced, it sold out in 20 minutes. 400 users were all like, we want to go to the contributor summit. So 500, I'm sorry. Hold on. All right. Yeah, no, and Bob and so many other people who are true volunteers, Bob does not get paid for this, have really helped us out with the small implementation details of running a large-scale event. Y'all do not know all the little teeny details that go into stuff like this. So thank you so much to all of our volunteers. You all are awesome. One more round of applause.
So you're no longer allowed to talk, apparently, Paris? I'll channel Paris.
Yeah, hold on. All right. No, it's over here. Yeah. Fine. So the CNCF does these awards, right? Everybody knows the awards that are happening, but we thought, we being contributor experience, thought that this community is equally as deserving of awards. Unfortunately, there's so many of you to award on an individual basis. We thought about awarding a group this time. Contributor experience, if you will, is sort of a leg of operations to the steering committee. We deal with all contributor experience issues with chairs, how to run their SIGs, etc.
You see how the name works there, SIG, contributor experience?
Some people don't know.
No, it's good.
So we thought that this time we would honor a SIG who is really doing their part. One that we never have to talk to, one that is always uploading their videos to YouTube. Why? Because they're transparent. One that manages so many different agendas with vendors in their group, and they do it so well. Their project management skills are so par. They have their own contributing guide. That SIG is SIG Storage. Saad and Bradley, are you in the room? Saad, come on. Saad, flip it over. This is the Kubernetes code in a you can't see, it's all you can see is a logo, but it's actually the code for Kubernetes. Saad, you all are so awesome. I'm gonna actually, it's like the Grammys, I'm gonna customize this for you. So, yeah, you actually can't take that home just yet. All right? No, but your whole SIG is so awesome. We never have to talk to you, and I think you're wonderful. So, yeah. Yeah. We work with so many wonderful people, and it's so hard to do rewards and recognition, but that's something that our SIG is willing to, well, not willing, but we are going to break ground on next year, which is coming up with more reward and recognition systems. Special shout outs to just a couple people like Jordan. Jordan is awesome at triage. I don't know if many folks in here actually go into the Kubernetes users group on Slack with 53,000 people, but Jordan is in there. And I have the data to prove it now. Jordan is consistently in the top 3 for most messages on Slack, and he consistently updates CVEs that are closed with updates, and it's really wonderful. Is Jordan here? No? Jordan's probably doing work.
Yeah.
So that.
It's merging.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we are going to the last award.
Okay, one more, and then we're going to do, remember the group photo is going to be out here where you had breakfast. Can we get the release managers for this year up? Here, Tim, Aish, Josh Burkus. Is Jace available? So all these people do a great job. And something we really wanted to do was give the release team a method of rewarding people who not just do great work on a single release, but have been a consistent, have shown consistent excellence throughout 2018. We've released 4 releases this year. So real quick, introduce yourselves and, I don't know, say something about yourself real quick so we know who you are. And then
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Okay, hello, I'm Aishwarya Sundar. I was the release lead for 113, which went out last Monday. Fun fact, I was a new contributor who just joined Kubernetes in April, and that just goes to show how an amazing community this is, which kind of supports and promotes people and then helps them go ahead and lead a release. So yeah, A to all of you.
Also trial by fire for the record, if those of you who are new contributors.
I'm Tim Pepper. I was the release team lead for 112 just before Aish. I joined the community a year and change ago. And actually, this ordering, so this is the progression, 11, 12, 13. Josh, a year ago, was poking me saying, you should get involved in the release team. KubeCon last year, we left the conference with people saying, well, I think you're going to have to lead the next release, basically getting voluntold to do it. And similarly with Aish, this is a chain of mentoring.
Cool. I'm Josh Burkus. I was 111 release lead. Actually, one of the things that's been really fun is I was 111 release lead, and Aish did CI Signal for that release. And so we had a gap in CI Signal continuity, and so now I'm doing CI Signal for Aish's release. Because it's got to get done. And the one weird fact is I make pottery. So.
So can we talk about Jace just real quick? Is Jace Singer Dumars around? Probably working. Can you just mention him real quick?
So for people who don't know Jace, you may see him right now helping with architecture, steering, or organizational things. Prior to that, he spent a lot of time, multiple releases, on the release team, similarly organizing. I'd say he had a hand in bringing each of us into the process as well. So again, just actively mentoring, bringing in the next generation. Great role model.
Yeah, the structure that we have right now for the release team with the roles and the mentorship and stuff, that was Jace.
He's a great sponsor. Sometimes you need somebody else to like give that small nudge to say you can do it, and he's one of those folks who always does it for everybody.
So the award is basically release leads, your discretion. It took about a week to get some quorum out of you. Can you talk about the person that you've selected and maybe kind of describe this person a little bit? And then we'll have them come up.
So we went back and forth on a bunch of people who've contributed. And for people who don't know, the release team, we have a set of volunteers, we have a set of volunteer shadows. And then there's consistently 3 or 4 people, and it varies from release to release across the year. There's people who just step up and are an informal part of the team. So this is one of those people. They've, again, just so extremely active that you don't even understand how they have time to do all of this when, again, it's not their core job or they're formally volunteered on other things. So what else do other people want to say?
And particularly, we selected the individual because one of the things that happens with every release during code freeze and code slush towards the end of the release is we get into crunch time, where there's things that are failing, there's things that are not passing tests. We're looking at holding up the release. And whoever would normally be responsible for the technical area is for some reason not available. And this individual's been one of the people to step up and try to solve those bugs so we can still get the release out on time, which we have done.
Again, I go back to the community. We lean in on a lot of individuals to get the release out. And this person, anecdotally, I could just ping on Slack and say, can I have a call with you right now? I need to discuss something. And the person was right there to discuss it and resolve it. And that's how accessible and yet highly technical and the person is to help us unblock the release. I'd like you announce it, George.
Okay. All right. Dims, can you come up?
That's a wrap.
Quick announcement. Jordan Liggett's in the room now. Everyone wanted to thank him, but he wasn't here. So
Jordan!
Can we get a repeat of the thing? Okay. Yeah, just come up. Yeah.
We're having a party up here.
I didn't even know he existed. I thought he was like 4 people in like a fictional character that they created. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to, at 5 o'clock, we're going to try to take a group photo by where we have breakfast. Real quick, on the way out, the people who've helped this event, Megan at CNCF, along with Caitlin, Bob, Jeff, Noah Abrams, Chris Short, Jason, Mario, Loria, where are you? Stand up. Raise your hands. Come on. All of the room monitors. Did I miss anybody? Zadev? Anybody else who helped out with planning that I'm missing? Paris, great sweater. Ask her about it. Who else? Lindsay, thank you. I miss anybody? Gwen? How was the new contributor summit?
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so new contributors, really quick, stand up. This will be your graduation ceremony.
Let's graduate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome to the Kubernetes community, and we hope you continue your journey with us. And with that, let's get a photo and let's get to work. Only 4 more days, everybody.
Only 4 more days. Everybody meet in the lobby. We're going to attempt a group photo. Let's do it.